If you have seen my previous videos, you already know I'm doing challenge, waiting on $3 a day for food and accommodation, trying to see the most real side of this country. Today, I came to a place called Baicheng, an abandoned factory in China. 60 years ago, China started a huge project called the Third Frontier Construction. At that time, China didn't have skyscrapers or highways like today. People lived mostly in the mountains, by rivers, and around the factories. Because of the situation back then, China's industries were unevenly spread out. The idea behind the third front was simple: to move industries inland, to make production more balanced. So, from 1960s onward, groups of factories, research institutions, power plants, and schools moved from the coastal areas to the west and the central parts of China. Those places has mountains, rivers, and mirrors, but often poor transportation and indoor villages, one after another. Factories, dormitories, and warehouses quietly appeared. It was a kind of construction hidden inside the mountains, and it carried the years of a whole generation. The factory I worked through today has been abandoned for many years. From the outside, it looks no different from an ordinary village. Rows of low buildings covered in vents, a raw wooden frames roasted and bent. But once you walk through that half-broken gate, you can feel a special kind of silence. Old parts, papers, and blueprints are scattered on the ground. The walls still hold faded slogans from decades ago, belaunched by years of sunlight. I pushed it open the door. Inside was an old workshop. The shapes of machines are still there, just covered by decades of dust. Sunlight comes through cracks in the roof and in the air. The floating dust looks like unfinished stories. Outside, I met an old man sitting by the gate. I talked with him for a bit. His English wasn't very good, and I couldn't catch everything he said, but I could feel that he was remembering the noise, the people, the bad days. At the back of the factory, I also found an old cinema. When I walked out of the factory, I saw a small residential area. I had to catch the ferry to back. Later, when I arrived, the boat hadn't left yet. The ferry leaves at 5:30, and the ticket costs 5 yuan. I rode my bike onto the boat. The wind from the river was cool against my face. Across the water, the chimneys, old coins, and war hours stood at darker silhouette in the fading light. People on the boat were warm and friendly. They asked me where I was from and where I was going. I told them about my challenge, to say as much as I can with as little as possible. One of the ferry workers smiled and handed me a life jacket. At first it was an old one. I joked. It's my first time here and you gave me an old one, he laughed, and then handed me a new one inside. In that moment, I thought the most priceless thing between people is that kind of kindness with no purpose. When we reached the other side, the sky was already dark. I found a small noodle shop by the pier and ordered a bowl of spicy noodles. The chili oil rolled on the top, glowing white. I'm not used to spicy food, but I ate it anyway. For the shot, and maybe for the story, it burned, but it felt right. But it felt real. Outside, the night was still. The noodles were hot. I felt like I was sharing a meal with time itself. That's all for today. From an abandoned factory to a steaming bowl of noodles, I saw just a past and the present, but continuation. The factories, the buildings, the old slangers, the faded photos from the third front area, the empty ruins. Their punctuation marks left by time. They reminder us that behind modernization, there were generations of ordinary people who quietly built everything we see today. And I just happened to walk into their memories on a winter afternoon with a camera and $3 in my pocket.